afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Lee, and I am chairing the PGC committee. It is 3:40. I'd like to call today's PGC meeting to order. As of now, we do not have quorum, so we will proceed through the agenda, and hopefully we will have quorum in order to take action on a couple of those topics. So again, my name is Jesse, and I'm very excited to be here to chair this very important committee at this point in time. And again, I want to thank the audience members for being here, and I certainly want to thank the PGC members for engaging in the conversations as well. So let's start with roll call, and I'll start with Lillian.
Lillian Maroon Hadak. Cynthia Dewar.
Alan Souza.
Jesse Lee.
Hello. Vinicio Lopez.
Elizabeth Koya.
Andre Barnes.
Jill Kersey.
Thank you. And then, of course, when we have additional members joining us at the table, we'll add to the roll call as well. We will skip the next two, again, because we do not have quorum at this point. So I'd like now to go to Chancellor's conversation and invite Chancellor Lamb to address the group.
Just a couple of things I have in regards to maybe the board meeting. I will mention I work with the Administrator Association that recommends the administrators to sit on this committee. And they made their recommendations to me that represents the new appointments as administrators to this committee. And from that group of administrators, I have also appointed Jesse Lee as the chair of this committee. We do have our next board meeting. Our next governing board meeting is this coming Thursday. And I know usually we have that governing board meeting in this room, but we will be having it at the Goff Street location. And we will actually be having it in the old board room that's in the Goff Street location, okay? There is limited parking there, but so if you're planning on driving, please make sure that you get there early. A couple things on the board agenda this time. We have the 2015-16 proposed budget. It should be posted on the website at this point. When I left at about 3 o'clock, they were throwing it up on the website, so it should be up there at this point. If you have any questions in regards to that, please talk Mark Zakovic. And David Martin will be available this next week to answer any questions. I know sometimes we get a lot of questions at the board, but this way they can answer them in advance if you have any specific questions. In addition, I'd like to also give my personal thanks to both Mark Zakovic and David Martin. They have been here literally burning the midnight oil. At times they have not left here until 12 o'clock at night, getting back literally at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I do want to recognize the time that they have put into this. One more thing that will be covered at the next board meeting is the status and history of the Goff Street project. That project actually started back in 2004 and was originally started by the Board of Trustees in 2010. And so a lot of that will be the discussion as far as the history of that, but also plans for moving forward. Okay?
Thank you, Chancellor. I see Athena here, so that will give us a quorum. So if it's okay with PGC, the council, I'd like to go back to approving today's agenda. So again, before you see the agenda. There is one change to the agenda, and that is the unfinished business B. we will postpone the 2017-2021 5-year capital outlay plan to our next PGC meeting. So again, today we will not be discussing that, nor will there be a presentation on that topic. We will again take it up in 2 weeks. That's the only change that I have to the agenda before you. Are there other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none.
So I'll make a motion to accept the agenda
As amended.
as amended.
Motion by Chief Barnes and seconded by Alan. Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thank you so much. The next item is to, again, approve the minutes. Before you in your packet, there are 2 sets of minutes. I hope you had a chance to review the minutes before today's meeting. So let's start with the first minute, which is the July 16th minutes. Are there any changes, additions, or edits that you would like to note for the record? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to get a motion.
I wasn't at the July 16th meeting, so I can't make a comment either way. I wanted to state that or just.
So we will note that you weren't at the July 16th meeting. For the folks who were at the July 16th meeting, can I get somebody to motion to approve the July 16th minutes?
I move to approve the minutes from July 16th.
Okay, motion by Lillian,
Second.
seconded by Chief. Thank you very much. Any discussion? On favor of approving the July 16th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Abstain?
abstain. Okay, so Cynthia and Jill and Elizabeth and Benicio. Thank you very much. So the July 16th minutes have been approved by the folks who, again, were present at the July 16th PGC meeting. So let's move on to the next set of minutes. Again, this is the last PGC meeting, August 20th. I hope, again, you had a chance to look it over. Are there any comments, corrections? Alan?
I was present. I'm not listed.
So Grace, please add Alan to present. Other comments? Hearing none. For those who were present at the August 20th minutes, can I get a motion to approve?
I move. I'll second.
Moved by Alan, seconded by Lillian. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the August 20th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you very much. For the record, please add Alan to the August 20th minutes. So thank you very much, and we will now proceed to the chair report. I have 7 items I'd like to just note. The last item I'll spend a few minutes on, but just in terms of heads up, again, I just want to note that I am new to this chair role. I am learning a lot. I had quite a crash course the last 3 days, and I just want to say that serving in this capacity comes with great responsibility, and I want everybody to know that I take this very seriously, and I strive to do my very best to serve as chair of PTC. So please know that. It is something that I think will add value. I hope I can add value to the college and to this council, and I certainly want to work with everyone on the committee, on the council, to move things forward. Okay, and I'll certainly say a few more things at the end of my chair report. But in terms of business items, I want to note that we need to have an updated membership list to ensure accuracy. So Grace, do you have the draft list? So Grace is going to pass out a draft list of membership. We're going to start with Lillian. So please make comments to ensure that it is accurate, reflecting again the current membership from 15-16. And Grace, please note that Karen joined the meeting. So Grace is going to hand out the template.
Just in the plan, just hand it out.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
But for consistency, let's just have 1 page.
Yeah.
And at the end, Athena, please give that to Grace so that we can post it again on our website. So thank you again for being here. The next thing I want to note in terms of my chair report is that I know that before I started this role, there were discussions about having and convening an agenda review committee. And to my knowledge, the agenda review committee has yet to meet. And we do need to have an agenda review committee who will be convening to agendize, again, the various discussion action items on the PGC. So I do want to say to all of you, we will need to identify a date and time. I know that we have volunteers to do so, and we just need to, again, have our first meeting and discuss how we want to proceed with agendizing the various discussion action items for us to talk about at our next meeting and future meetings. So again, for the folks who have volunteered, we will decide on a date and time to do this, and I'm hoping that we will be able to do and finalize the agenda at the very latest, just that you all know, by 8 o'clock on the Monday preceding our Thursday PGC meeting. Okay, so again, for consistency's sake, we do need to abide by the Brown Act, which means that we have to post our PGC minutes 72 hours before we meet on Thursday at 3:30. So what this means is that we have to finalize the agenda by 8 a.m. as the agenda review committee so that we can get it to Grace, who will then again do what she needs to do and get it posted by 3:30 that Monday, 3 days before our PGC meeting. Okay? Is that okay with?
Can you remind us who the volunteers were, the members of that?
And if I incorrectly state the names, please let me know. But in terms of who I have on the agenda review committee, we have the following. Representing faculty of Lillian. Representing classified, we have Joe, Kiersey, and Athena. And representing administrators, we have Jeff Lamb and Mary Lou Leba. And students, we have Bushra, and I know that Nisa Julian is serving as the advisor to the students' representatives. So those are the names that I have, and I believe we, and again, I please excuse my ignorance. Yes.
So, I'm sorry, Athena and I were looking at the membership when you were talking about the agenda review committee, and then we heard our names. So, we are unaware we volunteered for the agenda review committee.
So I think two PGC meetings ago, please correct me if I'm wrong, 2 or 3 PGC meetings ago, there were discussions to, in a sense, streamline how we add agenda items to the PGC meetings. So one of the ideas was to convene a group, the agenda review committee, subcommittee, task force, to sort of identify how we want to agendize the following PGC meetings. And I believe that's what I know. And if it's not correct, then let's certainly.
What I recall from the meeting 2 weeks ago is the chair, Joanne Lowe, asked for one volunteer from each constituent group to review the guidelines for PGC. And Lillian, Bushra, Andre, and I volunteered for that. But I don't remember it specifically being the agenda review committee or subcommittee or anything like that. It was just the chair asking for one volunteer for each constituent group to look over the guidelines. So that's my recollection.
And again, because I was not at the previous 2 PGC meetings, I don't have all the details, but I know that there is a separate discussion, I believe, in terms of a task force subcommittee to review an operational guidelines draft that was drafted, I think, fall 13. So that is a separate document, a separate discussion. And we still need to do that, and actually that's another one of the items I want to talk about in the chair report, is that we do need a task force to discuss operational guidelines document. And the names you then mentioned are for that purpose. But I think the agenda review committee idea, again, specifically, and please, I see Lillian is nodding. I think the idea is for one member, perhaps from each of the 4 constituent group, to convene and discuss how and when we agendize the various discussion and action items. Question. So Chancellor Lamb?
I think I had made the recommendation at the time as a way, but it wasn't to me. It was simply to have a second set of eyes on the agenda, so that when the agenda was developed, that there was like one person from each constituency that kind of helped look at the agenda, make sure that the times were appropriate, that items just that a group of people, one from each constituency, that could review the agenda and look for missed items or time limits or things like that. And that was just the recommendation.
Okay,
The
okay.
group could accept it or not.
Thank you for that. Latif?
I would like my name removed from the list that you called me out on.
Okay, okay. So let me do this, if it's okay, again, I want to be mindful of time and the fact that we do have several public comments. I do want to get to that. So at this point, I will send out an email to you all to ask how would you like to proceed with regarding to the agenda review portion, because I think it's important that we have clarity and consistency and transparency. When we want to talk about various items, we should be able to convene somehow, whether it's in person or over email, to say this is what we'd like to discuss at our next PGC meeting. And again, the most important thing is that whatever the discussions, wherever we end up with, we get it to Grace by 8 o'clock Monday morning so that we can post the agenda by 3:30 that Monday before the PGC meeting. Steve?
Just one thought as you're going down that path is that I think one of the things that PGC wants is to have a background material associated with everything. So just be sure you leave enough time. If you're just kind of setting it up that morning, if there aren't background materials ready, it'll be hard to pull everything together by 3:30 that afternoon.
Right. And that is the one thing I want to add on as well. Thank you, Steve, for mentioning that. Moving forward, and again, I hope as you get to know me, it's important that we have all the materials ready and posted and shared, so that there's ample time for you all to review, for you to meet with your constituent group and have discussions, and really have a thoughtful response in terms of how do we sort of move various pieces forward. Okay, so we certainly want to be much more intentional and much more transparent in terms of the documents, the materials, that again, you all need to have ample time to review. So we'll make a point to make sure that that is in fact the case. So again, I will email the council regarding the agenda review. That's a separate topic. Again, the operational guidelines discussion. Again, thank you for bringing that up. We will also need to discuss how we want to look at the draft from fall 2013 and how best to proceed. I just wanted to give you all an overview. That is something that we should discuss. And again, it matters that we have the process for doing so.
So I'm not remembering if this came through on email or if this was at the last meeting, but that group was also going to take into account the evaluation results.
Right.
Was that at the last
Correct.
meeting and set some kind of report out date?
And again, the reason why we want to start a process and have, again, the levels of engagement is because it's an example, it's evidence of us having robust discussions as a college council. Okay. And I want to make sure that all the voices are heard. The next item I want to talk about in my chair report are the minutes. Again, there were discussions previously in terms of how do we, create the minutes, and more importantly, how do we share the minutes? It's important that we have to have minutes. It's important that we have to have the minutes be accurate and be helpful and reflect, again, the discussions and the actions taken at PGC. So we're going to work on how to get the minutes more easy to create so that it's consistent across the board. Not only are we using, hopefully, a minutes template for our PGC, but also for the 4 standing committees as well. So that's something that we need to discuss, again, as a council in terms of how, to what extent, how detailed should our minutes be. Okay? So again, something to think about. The other piece that I want to just quickly note is that I know that a lot of work has been done last year and previously regarding the BPs and APs, and we do need to continue to have those conversations around BPs and APs, again, board policies and administrative procedures. And our general counsel, Steve Bruckman, has been very good about keeping us on track. So what I'd like to present to, at least float the idea with the council, is that it would be great if we could somehow chunk the various BPs that we should discuss as a council and be able to say on September 17th, we're going to talk about these 5 BPs, first reading. On November 5th, we're going to talk about these 5 BPs, whatever it is. So I certainly want to have a discussion in terms of how do we move the BPs forward and how do we, again, not table and table and table the various BPs that come up, and And how do we, again, if there are areas of disagreement, how do we laser in on where that is, so that we can, again, move the needle forward and have robust, healthy discussions so that we can all reach consensus. Again, the most important thing for me, it would be ideal we all have thumbs up, but the most important thing for me is that we can live with whatever it is that we're working towards to help move the project. Okay, so I just want to give you all a sense that hopefully we could chunk the BPs in a thoughtful, meaningful way so that there's plenty of time for you to review the BPs, review the various edits, the various iterations, and have discussions when we do convene. But more importantly, that you have enough time to vet those BPs with your constituent group. Okay? Questions, comments about that? The next thing I want to at least highlight and float the idea is that I know that I want to be very respectful of your time on the council, and I want to be very respectful of the audience members' time. So I think it would be prudent to allocate time for each discussion item, for each action items, so that again we know where we are at 4:30 and where we are at 5 o'clock. And it's a big deal for me to start the meeting on time and also end on time, because I think we have so much going on that I want to respect the fact that this is a commitment on your part, and it's a commitment that you take very seriously, and it's also a commitment that we honor others' time as well. So let's make a point to start the meeting at 3:30, and let's try to make a commitment to end the meeting at 5:30 or before. Okay. So we will, if it's okay with the council, we will have time allocation starting in 2 weeks when we meet for the various agenda items. And this is something that the Agenda Review Committee, Subcommittee, would talk about in terms of how much time should be allocated to X, Y, and Z. Is that okay with the council? The next thing I just want to quickly highlight is that I'd like to share with you some of my thoughts as chair of this council. I know some of you, I got to know some of you very well, and I don't know some of you, and I certainly want to make sure that you know who I am and how I sort of like to facilitate a meeting. And I spent a few minutes just putting together some thoughts. And I want to make sure that I convey this, and I want to make sure that we set the tone moving forward. And I want you all to know that the most important thing for me when it comes to how we sort of operate, how we work together, how we collaborate, it's all about students. So when we have discussions and when we talk about issues and we have challenging tasks ahead of us, please always think about what would we need to do as a council to serve students to the best of our ability. So there will be times I'm going to stop the meeting and say, are we really serving the students by doing X, Y, or Z? And I pose that by saying, we have to really give more thought to some of the things that we're talking about. And not just, again, talk about it, but really give it some thought. Because the more intentional we are, the better we will be able to move the discussion forward. So again, students is really why we're here, and students are the reason why we need to make certain decisions that are, again, in their interest. The other thing I want to note is that my role here really is to facilitate our discussions. I'm honored that Chancellor Lam asked me to step in to serve this capacity. I just want to make sure that, again, I can do a good job facilitating. So please help me facilitate, and please help me help us move forward. That's more or less what I want to say. So that wraps up my chair's report. Awards and recognition is the next item. Are there any comments, anything folks would like to say about anything from the council first? Are there anything from the audience regarding awards and recognitions? Okay. Hearing none, we're going to move on to the next item, the consent agenda. We don't have any. Moving on to unfinished business, I'd like to turn it over to Pam Mary, who will again give us an overview of the Standing Committee's evaluation survey results. So thank you, Pam.
Good afternoon, everyone. writing those up, sharing that with the committee, and then we'll be forwarding it to the council. I know accreditation will be talking about the results at its next meeting, and those have already been shared with that membership. I'm not quite sure where diversity is, but they've received it, and I'm sure they'll be moving it forward. I just don't know the date of the meeting. And enrollment management, I imagine, will move that forward as well. So this council will be receiving reports from each of those committees about the results, what the committees have determined in response to the results, and it'll also be an opportunity for you to find out more about what those committees are doing and the work that they're doing in its relationship to this council. That's it in a nutshell.
Short and sweet. Questions for Pam? Any comments from the council? Again, if you have not had a chance to review the survey results, I think it's worth looking at and just identifying where some of the comments and issues and themes are. So thank you very much, Pam, for providing us with the results. Comments from the council, from the audience? Joe?
Brevity is the soul of wit, Pam. Thank you very much. Always welcome back.
Any comments from the audience? Lonnie?
Is there an end date by which the standing committees are gonna report back to the PGC?
The goal is to have it done by the end of September.
Okay. When you say have it done by what do you mean?
The report back to PGC.
Okay.
So I know planning committee will be on the next agenda, imagine accreditation.
What about enrollment and diversity?
Enrollment, that should be feasible, yeah, so I'll check with diversity.
Okay.
Actually, maybe you can check with diversity.
I'm not on diversity,
Okay.
but I could do that.
Other questions, comments from the audience? Thank you, Pam. Moving on to new business, we do not have one for today, but I know that when we meet next time there will be new business to discuss. Moving on to standing committee updates. We'll start with Kristen, accreditation.
Because it starts with A.
Of course.
Alright, I don't know if you need me to use the microphone or if it's even on, but can you hear me if I speak like this? Is that good? Okay. I always will look to Lillian to chime in if needed, so please feel free, Lillian. You should have the written report that we submitted for this agenda. Just a few things I do want to draw your attention to. The timeline is available online for developing the self-evaluation. We've talked about that in the past. Just some of the relevant parts of the timeline to the PGC. We will be asking you during this December, to review the first draft of the self-evaluation. You'll have access to that beginning November 4th, although I do want to point out that again, I've said this before, these are all being created in Google Docs, so they're really available to you and anyone at any time by going to the accreditation website. And then at the end of May is when we will be asking you to review and recommend the final self-evaluation, and then the Board of Trustees will actually review. They'll have an opportunity to review prior to that as well, but they'll do their final review and their approval of that during summer. Currently, as you all know, I believe, because we've talked about it a lot, we've just completed the deep outlines for the self-evaluation, which will lead us into developing the narratives, and that has already begun. Some work groups are actually really charging ahead with that. We have put together the Accreditation Support and Accountability Task Force, or the ASAT, to review those outlines, and then subsequently to review the narratives, really looking at the evidence that the work groups have put together and the analysis of that evidence to make sure that it really responds to the standard. That's a vital starting point, and to make sure that we've identified where we don't have evidence and where we need evidence. And then finally, in our most recent meeting, we discussed the quality focus essay, and that is a new feature of the self-evaluation. This is in addition to responding to all the standards and the eligibility requirements. And this is really, we have to identify 2 or 3 areas that come out of our
self-evaluation in these earlier stages, of course, because we need time to be able to write this. We're looking at policies, practices, processes, you name it. It can be any of those. But we want to look at areas that have good potential for improving student outcomes. To echo, that it is really all about our students. That is important and fundamental to what we do. And essentially, it needs to relate to change that would take place over a multi-year period. It's a delicate balance for us, given that we have to show that we meet the standards, but so it has to be an area where we meet the standards, but we see room for continuous quality improvement, and these are plans that we really need to be serious about undertaking to continue that work. Just quickly, some topics under discussion. This is by no means has just been decided, but just based on sort of the areas of interest in the accreditation committee the other day. We're looking at possible pathways. We're looking at equitable services. We're looking at the integration of plans. And we're looking at outcomes assessment. Now, those would of course have to be narrowed. We may think about some unifying themes, whether it's about the use of data within certain areas. There's a number of different ways we can decide this, but we will at some point, hopefully very soon, bring this back to you when we refine that list a little further. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Kristen. Any questions, comments from the council for Kristen? From the audience? Thank you, Kristen. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Next up is the Diversity Standing Committee. Anybody from that committee? Hearing none.
We're meeting next Tuesday at 4 p.m.
Next Tuesday at 4 p.m.
Yes, I'm not the chair, but I'm just sharing the information.
So the committee, the diversity committee will be next, just for the record, we'll be meeting next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Do we have a location?
It's here in NUB, I believe. Claire, I think I don't know if she's submitted it to you, but I can
Post
submit
it online.
I can look at my calendar.
Thank you for that added information. Other comments about diversity committee? Moving on to the enrollment management committee, we have our vice chancellor of academic affairs, Anna Davies.
The enrollment management committee will be holding its first meeting next Thursday, I believe. Our meeting is scheduled from 3:30 to 5 p.m. here in the NUB. At that meeting, we are going to review and consider changing our regular meeting date so that it doesn't conflict with PGC. That was something that came up at this meeting last time, and I think we'll try to find an alternative that allows members of both to attend both, so I'll be able to report back on that. We're also reviewing a draft timeline for the development of an enrollment management plan, so the members will be looking at a proposal that I'm putting together to allow us to achieve a plan in the spring for implementation in the following year. We're going to be asking for membership to be very active this fall, and we're also going to be recruiting several people who are not actually on the committee. So I hope that all of you will consider getting engaged in that process. It'll be very important for us to put together a plan that is well known and endorsed by the campus community so that we have successful implementation next spring. And moving forward, we will be submitting a written report here to the PGC monthly. So
That would be good. Thank you so much. Before you go, are there any questions from the council first about enrollment management, about some of the comments Anna made? Okay. From the audience, I see a hand. Chancellor.
Do you mean this Thursday, that next Thursday is the board meeting? Is it the Thursday after?
it is the 10th,
Oh, which is board meeting?
which is the board meeting, study session, which is why we're going to be talking about changing our day. The charter, what's interesting, and I'll tell you why. What's interesting is that the meeting day is actually identified in the charter. So it's by charter, that's the meeting date. And so in order to talk about another meeting date, you have to follow the charter and meet, even though it's a conflicting date. So it is a little bit confusing, but I do believe we'll have a significant enough membership that we can at least identify an alternate meeting date moving forward and avoid the conflicts. So.
Thank you. I think that would certainly help the folks who again have to be at the same place.
maybe I missed it in all of the information coming at us, but how is our enrollment doing right now?
Oh boy, okay, so,
Yeah, the big attack.
the informal response, because I don't have anything in front of me, is, we look about 5% down from last fall, right now as it stands today in the credit area. And so what we're waiting on is our first really solid report out of our non-credit programs to see where that is. We should know within the next week or two, kind of fall to fall, where we're shaking out. But it's interesting, many people have reported more activity in the parking lots, more activity on campus, and yet our head count seems to be reflecting a little bit of a decline. So that's something that we can drill down on a little bit more and see if we can identify what might be contributing to that.
Alan, and then Wendy.
There's a proposal to downsize our scheduling in the next few semesters, and can you speak a little about that and what the plan is to bring 5% down?
I can't speak to the specifics because the chairs and the deans will be working, I think, more closely on that. What Chancellor Lamb announced at the department chair and deans meetings beginning of the semester was an intent to look at an overall 5% reduction for spring. If you were at the colloquies in the springtime and you saw the scenarios that were laid out, you would have also seen in one of those colloquies, in one of those scenarios, looking at reductions over the next 3 years. And that is to align with the current level of enrollments and prepare for the Leno bill to end in 2 years. And so, although we're all working very vigorously to identify areas of growth, and we're going to continue to pursue that, at the same time we are trying to prepare and align with incremental reductions to the potential ending of the Leno bill in 2 years. So deans and chairs will be working closely together. We're trying to push out some data to help them inform the discussions at the department levels and look at how we might make strategic reductions. To give you context, of 5% in the spring would mean about 175 sections. So you kind of have a sense of what does 5% mean. It would be about that.
Wendy.
Well, my question is exactly along the lines of what Alan mentioned. We were told in the negotiating sessions by the district that in the next 3 semesters there'd be a 5% reduction each time, so for a total of 15%, like within the next year and a half. But yet the FTES is projected to be stable. And I'm just wondering, like, what analysis has been done, and has this been done in the enrollment management committee, and like what kinds of classes are being targeted to maintain the FTES but reduce class offerings?
Yeah,
and you might not be able to answer that because
yeah.
I know you're new.
But week 3. So let me do my best.
All right.
So the reality of the situation today for us is that we have maintained our class schedule at a flat level, or we've grown a little bit over the past few years, while our student enrollments overall have declined in the credit programs. And so what we have now is a large amount of unused capacity. And so the goal is not to restrict access. The goal is to begin to reduce the overall schedule down to match the current level of demand, and then grow in areas where we can and where there's demand from students. So that's going to take some real intense discussions by the chairs and the deans, because they know their programs so much better than I ever will. But we're going to be working in our enrollment management committee this year in that planning process to get more prescriptive about what do we mean when we say that in the coming year. So that's why I really want to invite you and everybody to get engaged in that process, because we really do want to come up with a transparent way to be consistent and be equitable, but also not be tempted to just take a flat, everybody takes an equal cut, which doesn't really serve our students as well. So we're working on it.
So that means the planning actually and the analysis hasn't really been done yet, and yet the goal, or at least the tactic in the next year and a half, is to reduce 5% each semester.
The fiscal analysis has been done to demonstrate that the capacity of the class schedule is significantly above current demand. That's been done, and if you go back to the website and you look at the colloquies from the spring, they're still there. You can click on them and watch. So that analysis of, and we've heard the term fiscal cliff, right? We've heard that. That's been done. Now, implementing responses to that.
I'm talking about the actual enrollment management and like which classes are going to be cut and how the FTES is going to remain stable with those cuts. I mean, I understand the fiscal cliff. Anyway, I'm just not sure how. But looking at the numbers of, looking at the data and how it's going to work to cut the classes and keep the FTES. That analysis. I'm asking if that's already been done.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess I should start.
Okay, thanks.
Joe, you have a comment or a question? Are there other comments or questions for Vice Chancellor Dan? Thank you very much. The last standing committee is planning. Pam, would you like to say anything or any update?
We'll have a full update the next so we had our first meeting on Monday, and it was pretty exciting. We're really using the recommendation process now, and so their first recommendation for me was to go back through all of the notes and minutes from last semester and compile a summary that's easy to digest for this group, for us to present to you as one of your standing committees. So you've heard lots from me. You know some of the kind of stuff that we're doing, but this will be a place to look at it all in one place. Here are the kinds of projects that we're working on. So that's underway, and I will bring it to the group agenda size willing at the next meeting.
And Pam, before you go, we have questions. Carol?
Yes. So, will the planning committee be working on the timeline for the program review cycle? And maybe this information is out there, but I haven't seen it. Do you have an idea of when the program reviews will be due this year? Or if you don't know that, do you have an idea of when we might have a timeline for program review?
Yeah, the timeline is going to follow basically the timeline from 5 years ago. So remember last year, the timeline, we pushed the timeline out. So originally the due date was in November, and we pushed it out till February, and that really didn't work. And in fact, part of what happened is people said, well, I have all these conflicts, I can't get it done by your new deadline. This is the extended deadline. So I discovered that, as probably many classroom faculty know, extending deadlines don't always work the way you think they're going to. So we're sticking with the November deadline, long and short. Yeah. So it'll be the end of November. I don't know the precise date, but it may be November 18th or something like that.
And I presume that you'll be sharing the deadlines and getting folks the message.
Absolutely. So once we have the college priorities, that is typically the kickoff for the program review process, and typically that happens mid-September. So be looking for that shortly.
Other questions from the council for Pam? From the audience? Hearing none, seeing none, we're going to move on to the next. Thank you, Pam. So the next item is miscellaneous reports updates for the folks in the audience. We, again, will have standard 4A updates every time we have our BGC meeting. And Lonnie will give us...
Can I have to come up there? Okay. Standard 4A, we did our deep outline, it's on the Google Docs, and gathered a lot of evidence. So I started writing because I don't like to mess around. So 1/7 of the way through, that's on the Google Docs too. I'm not saying it's perfect, but there is starting, and as we go along, as things start developing, like the leading from the Middle Academy and other things we get going, roles and responsibilities, obviously that's gonna be added in, but I found that in writing a lengthy document, what you do is start with a draft and then kind of add in stuff as you're going along, because obviously a lot of stuff is going to be developing, you know, over the next few months. You know, and of course now the evaluations of the PGC itself, the body, and the standing committees has been completed. We're also waiting to hear back from the standing committees on what they plan to do with the results of those evaluations. So we're moving forward at a pretty good clip, and I'm hoping to get it done with the committee fairly soon, so that we can obviously monitor things that are happening and unfolding and add it in, and we'll be in pretty good shape when it's actually due. Questions?
Questions from the council? From the audience on governance 4A? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much, Lonnie. So let's move on to the next item, which is public comments. I have before me 2 public comment cards. Are there others? So I will call the first student, Rashawn, student event. And just for the folks in the audience, if you have public comments, please know that you have a 2-minute time limit, and Alan D'Souza will be the timekeeper.
Okay. Good evening. Well, still kind of afternoon. I'm Rashawn Sturtevant, President of Student Council at Southeast Community Center. I'm here today. I have 2 concerns. Well, 1 concern right now. I thought when we got into council, we were here to do a good thing, to provide services for the students, to speak on their behalf. We were elected for this position, and I thought the higher officers that stand above us were supposed to support us and to be behind us. But instead, I have issues with complaints about the higher positions of the deans, that has complaints on various occasions of bullying students, being biased, not being cooperative with your student leaders at your campuses. There have been complaints, written complaints, and nothing was done about him at all. Now he's here at the chair. I have seen my student leader, Bushford Simmons, come to every executive meeting crying about situations about this man. Why is he sitting in this chair? I don't understand it, and I would like someone to make me understand. I don't know you, Mr. Lee, but I know Bushford Simmons. And when she came to us at every council meeting crying about complaints about you, nobody did anything about that. I have concerns about that. We are here doing a job for the students, and you guys makes it hard sometimes. And I don't think it's fair. I really don't think it's fair that you sit up there and you say respect for students and this and that, and you forget what you have done. So I think somebody should be accounted for those complaints that was complained on you, and nobody's done anything about it. And I'm here because that happened to me when I first got into council. I was bullied. I was argumentative with my dean, but I love my dean. We worked that out. But that's the thing. When you got in office, it was some kind of point to where somebody had to look at their complaints and bring you two together to solve this matter. So that's what I would want things to happen from now on. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashawn.
You're welcome.
Before the next speaker, point of order. If I understand correctly, these meetings should be run in line with board meetings, and I don't think we allow individuals to make comments about particular individuals. And I don't want to downplay what might be a legitimate complaint, but I think that needs to be taken offline. Maybe other members of the panel can share with me if I'm correct in that.
The academic senate also follows
I would like to put this on record, please, all the emails from the leaders. and I am.
That's what I understood,
Oh, thank you.
so I thought, Mr. Chairman, you could speak to folks who want to speak and put comments that they can't direct to individuals, not at all. They might want to speak about a process being unfair or something of that nature, but that's inappropriate.
Well, my apologies.
Yeah.
Next time I know, but as long as you guys heard me, thank you very much.
Having said that, I don't want that to stop students from having discussions, even if there's feedback about how to have those discussions really productively, right? I want to say, please continue the discussion.
And I would like public comment for our students. They are here to make public comment, and we have a right to public comment. Okay? So, I'm requesting to be called to public comment, and
Yes.
our student to come to public comment.
So our next speaker who submitted a card is Bushra Simmons.
That's me.
Work it out.
Hello everyone, my name is Bushra Simmons, and I am here today to speak of a lack of the top administration for the lack of complete disregard and complete disrespect and complete dismissal of our voices, of my voice as student trustee and my voice as a student. And I sent an email to Chancellor Lamb, and you have an email in front of you. Chancellor Lamb, she knew about the grievance, serious grievance that I had, regardless Dean Lee, and she dismissed my grievance. She just make it like, oh, just work together, oh, this and that, oh, he doesn't mean that, or maybe because you say inappropriate, that's why he's doing that. And I know there is a thing that is appropriate and things that are not appropriate, and I will follow an email about my complaints, my grievance to all the council. And this is here almost 2 years, and nothing has been addressed from the Chancellor Lamb when she was Vice Chancellor. We, the students, have a huge concern about Chancellor Lamb when she was Vice Chancellor at PGC, disregarding our voices, accreditation. They heard this from students, that PGC Chair Susan Lamb have been disregarding our voice and not paying attention what we say, like we are nobody and we are not constituent group like everyone. There is many concern that we don't have confidence on about Chancellor Lamb, and that she is biased and protecting her friend Dean Lee, and she doesn't care about the best interest of the students and our voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Bushra. Other comments that folks would like to make in terms of public comments from the council?
It was all big news in recently the state chancellor's accreditation task force report that came out. Everybody saw that. We are concerned. Well, first of all, we feel good about the validation that we're getting, that the claims of faculty and others, the emperor has no clothes, is finally being seen for the truth. We are concerned, though, that the state chancellor is looking at a guide of possibly up to 10 years to replace the current accrediting body, and we would like to make sure that our school advocates for that timeline to be not that long, while continuing AB 1397 by King does move forward, and we would encourage support for that, so that process for accreditation reviews is taken care of. One other comment I'd like to add on is we are in negotiations, AFT 2121 is, and there is a requirement by state law that says that it's section 3547.7 that a final adoption of a budget should be done sufficiently in advance before an agreement of any sort of economic negotiations are done. And we have not adopted a budget yet, and we're concerned about the processes not being honored by what the law states, and so we would encourage that to move forward.
Other comments? Jill?
I'm just a little confused because we're at a governance meeting, and I'm confused as why negotiable issues are being brought up here.
I can address that. That budget has to come through PGC before it goes to the board, and it has not come here yet.
Lonnie?
Was the budget A, not presented in May, and B, I think it's going to the board this month, Steve, if I'm correct, for final adoption to the budget?
Right. And negotiations have begun, and economic proposals have been made, and it's not the order required by law.
But they always adopt the final budget in September.
I'm just giving you the information.
Jill?
While this information is important, I'm not sure how this is the appropriate forum. I'm in a different constituent group, and so I don't really have a whole lot of background on it, so it's just my thoughts.
Lillian?
I would like to strongly encourage everyone to be willing to listen to what everyone has to say. Whether they're from a different constituent group, there are issues that cross boundaries, there are issues that are exclusive to interest groups. We have yet to determine actually what the function of this committee is, but we've seen in the paperwork that this is supposed to be a dialogue. And I would like to strongly encourage that dialogue to continue robustly, with everyone able to speak and without unnecessary comments about limiting conversation. The point is dialogue.
Other comments from the council? I just want to note that at this point, we do need to, as a council, discuss in terms of what we are here to do and how best to move forward. And again, that's a discussion that we should have so that there's more clarity. But I want to acknowledge again the comments made, and I certainly want to also note that we do need to have conversations about what we do as a council and how best to move and discuss and engage and collaborate and really solve issues. And again, really just have those robust discussions and dialogues, regardless of I mean, there are certain things that we can't talk about, obviously, in public, and there are certain things that, again, are just not the purview of PGC, but to the extent that we want to, again, allow folks to have their voices heard, I think that's an important value that we share, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we don't cross certain lines when it comes to the purpose of PGC. I have before me 2 more public comment cards. Slava?
Yes.
Ustinov?
Yeah, sure. Come on. Yep.
Chair, it's 4:40, and we were check-in at 4:30, I think.
5:30.
Can I just go?
So, Slava?
Yes. Hi, how are you? My name is Slavi Ustinov. I'm the president for Associate Students Council here on Ocean Campus. One thing I do 100% agree with Busha Simmons. I 100% stand for her. As a president of the student leader, I think that it's a basic thing for administration, or at least this council, to notify student leaders of current events, changes that are happening within our college, at least to keep our student trustees, Bushra Simmons, up to date, so she could notify student councils across the board. Pretty much that I could do a simple thing as to report back to the student body or notify of changes or upcoming changes that will be happening within our school. Pretty much my job as a president is to notify the student body of things that are going on. A simple thing is like having the new chair or new things that are happening here. So it would be very nice if, administration, you guys could be more transparent or pretty much send emails to our dean of student activities or to our student trustees. So she could report back to us and I could report back to my council and to student leaders. So you know of the changes, the things that are going on, because this is part of my job. And it will be very nice because every single Wednesday I have a general meeting and I have a lot of questions people ask, what you have done, which meetings you went to, what's going on within pretty much within our college, yes. And it will be really nice if you could be more transparent and pretty much just to have more input and just connect to the students because we are also a contingency group and we are here working with you guys. Yeah, this is all that I want to say, and that's the concerns that we've been going through. Been talking within the council in the past couple of weeks since the semester started. Okay, thank you.
And one last speaker, Shane.
My name is Shane. I'm the president of the Evans Center. I'd like to reading on behalf of my vice president, Dennis Stroud. At most basic level, this is not cool at all. This appointment is a slap in the face of the students, and at such a high level. There has been documentation that no effort has been made by the administrators to work together with the student leader, and that there is an obvious bias, which the chair of the PGC is not supposed to have. If the school is to improve and stay open, it needs to address this prevailing culture of the administration looking down on its nose at its student body. It troubles me to hear that such blatant disrespect of the students at City College has been allowed to continue unabated for so long. I can, with heavy heart, personally say that such incidences are not isolated and continue to occur presently throughout the college. The appointment of Grace Lee as chair of the PGC is being seen by the students at Evans Center as an attack on the student body of City College and an active show of disrespect for their concerns. No appointment should be valid when the candidate has such thoroughly unresolved problems with one of its main constituent groups. Nor should it be valid without the upfront involvement of its core service group, the students. The treatment of the students needs to be taken seriously. The City College simply biding time until its ultimate closing, whereas City College was founded as a means of supporting its community. It has more than seemingly become a heartless money grab by those in upper echelon positions. The current accreditation issues have exposed the cracks in the moral foundation of the college and need to be addressed before the community, and most specifically the students, turn their backs to a distasteful regimen. If that is allowed to happen, the dissolve of City College will certainly follow. Have you ever seen a business succeed by turning its backs on its core clientele?
Thank you, Shane.
Well, we all know the answer is a resounding no. I stand with the student trustee Booker Simmons to make sure that this very problematic matter be resolved to the satisfaction of all parties involved. And I stand with the student body and its representatives to ensure that City College urgently addresses all similar grievances.
Thank you,
Oh, that's time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just need to resolve the issues at hand as of there. Thank you for the time.
If for the record, again, I want to state my point and state my objection to an individual's name being read. I think this statement could have stood without that and be in line with proper protocol. I'm not taking a stance on whether information is true or not or any particular side. anybody who speaks ought to be mindful of the rule that we do not call individuals out. Again, I think this could have been read without eliciting a name. And so I just think that that's appropriate. While it's directed at somebody else, the next one could be at me, and I would appreciate that, particularly since it's a violation of protocol at all our meetings. Just asking everyone should be mindful and respectful in that matter. So I just want that objection on the note.
Thank you, Chief, for the record. Thank you. The next item is to adjourn. It is 4:45. I'd like to adjourn today's PGC meeting at 4:45. Thank you, everybody.